Welcome to the Steve Stein Guitar Podcast, where we bring you the latest insights, tips, and techniques to help you master the art of guitar playing. I'm your host, Steve Stein, and I'm committed to sharing my passion for the guitar while inspiring you and guiding you through your musical journey. Now remember that you can enjoy this podcast from anywhere and anytime, whether you're cruising down the highway, preparing dinner in the kitchen, or even working out at the gym. By incorporating the podcast into your daily routine, you'll be able to stay inspired and motivated in your guitar journey, no matter where life takes you. Now, let's dive into today's podcast. All right, thank you for joining us. Today, I have got an awesome person here. His name is Manuel Acevedo. He is one of the new instructors here at the GuitarZoom Academy, and I thought it'd be really cool for you to meet him and get to know him, and we both can learn his story at the same time. So, Manuel, thank you so much for being here with us.
Hey, Steve. Thank you for coming here. Very excited.
Very cool.
Yep.
Can you tell me, where are you from?
I'm from Argentina. Yes,
Okay. Did you grow up there?
Yeah. Born and raised here.
Okay.
Live in a coastal city called Mar del Plata. It's pretty beautiful. So yeah.
Very cool.
Always very close to music in every possible sense. So it's nice town.
So what's the weather like there?
It's garbage. It is absolute garbage. Like, we have like really hot days into 3 days of storm. Actually, it's rainy today. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, what it is, like, I don't know what's going on with this city. It doesn't happen in any other part of the country. It's just insane. Very eclectic.
So do you guys get winter and stuff too then?
Yeah, but since we have the sea very close, it's not like it snows or anything.
Sure.
So it's not like super cold. Like, it's very rare that we get sub-zero temperatures here. But when it does, it's like you can really feel it in your bones.
Sure. Cool. All right. Well, let's start off by just talking a little bit about. So, for those of you that don't know, obviously, who Manuel is, he's a great player, and I'm always intrigued by how people first get started with their interest in music. So let's not even really worry about guitar just yet, although that might be where it starts for you. Like, what's your first memory of being intrigued by music?
Actually, that's a very good question. I don't know. My dad always played guitar, as far as I can remember. He was the first person that encouraged me to play. He just put the acoustic guitar. I mean, it was like probably 4, 5, 6. I don't remember exactly when, but I still have his guitar, his acoustic guitar back then. It's just a Charvel, beautiful guitar, an acoustic, and guitar was like twice my size. So you can imagine my skills at that age trying to nail an E minor chord is like pretty difficult. But I would say that was my first contact with guitar and music in general. But we always listen to music in my house, and my dad listened to a lot of national rock, like Argentinian rock, and then on the other side I have my brother who liked more of the grunge kind of stuff, Nirvana, Creed, that kind of bands. Then my cousin had a sick Les Paul, and he's like at that point he was like a clone of Slash, like an Argentinian Slash, with the hair and everything. So I got the hard rock metal-ish side from him. So it was always, we always had music in the family, so I was always in contact with that. But at the age of 6-ish, I started learning.
So when you were 6 then, first of all, did your dad play professionally? Like, did he play in bands and stuff, or?
No, just for personal enjoyment.
Okay.
He would play like very simple, like 4 or 5 chords songs, not like looking to improve as he's playing. It's just he did it for the enjoyment of it. Sure.
So when you were 6 then, did you start like learning from your like a relative, or did you go to school or like lessons or something?
So I studied with my dad. Like, he taught me the songs he knew, and at some point he said, okay, you're gonna go to a teacher. I don't know if because he couldn't teach me anything else, or because he was annoyed at me trying to the guitar all day. But at the age of 10, 11-ish, I started lessons with a local musician. I think he's now living in the US. His name was Daniel.
Okay.
He's a very good session player. And I did a few months before he left the country, and I was at some point I was redirected to my second guitar teacher, who was a kind of a turning point, because he was like an active guitar player in the music scene here in my city, and he gave me some critical like records that like completely changed my life, which was insane. Two of them, like he gave me, like, back when CD burning was a thing.
Sure.
He made me a couple of copies, and I remember two albums that just absolutely blew my mind at that point. He said, "Imagine me, 12-year-old Manuel, struggling to play the pentatonics, and he gives me like the Extremis from Joe Satriani as one of the records."
Oh, sure.
And he gave me Liquid Tension Experiment 1.
Oh, nice.
And that's like, I put that record and it's like it just killed me. It's just absolutely mindless. I couldn't even imagine that music was able to do stuff like that. Something
Yes.
that was being able to be played. It felt unhuman at the point. But I was immediately hooked by the technical side of it. Of course, I couldn't play like not even like single note of that album, but I got
Sure.
into the like Steve Vai, John Petrucci, Johnson, like every single guitar player. I just got into them and started learning a pile of music, and I got into the more shreddy kind of music that way. So that was the play as many notes as you can era.
Yeah.
So I got into the shred. I didn't care about accuracy. It's just, let's cram as many notes as I can on this 4/4 bar, and let's go with it, right? So it was fun. I actually had the beauty of that period is that I had a ton of time to practice, and I had good teachers. So I got the foundational stuff there for electric guitar, and that was it. I think I had a power metal band, very inspired by stuff like Edguy, Nightwish, Rhapsody of
Gotcha.
Fire, Iron Maiden, that kind of stuff. And we released a very sketchy demo of 4 songs, recorded with a. It's embarrassing to say. It's. I had an interface, a USB interface, and zero knowledge. I just recorded it. I think I have like a demo copy of Guitar Rig, and I had no idea. I just boosted the bass and exported the files, and we call that a demo. I'm not even gonna share it. It's not for
I so
sharing.
need to hear this.
Maybe in private. But yeah, we gigged for like 3 years. It was pretty fun, and I got the band experience from that. So we would collectively write songs, and that was a very, very nice experience. Like dealing with rehearsals, people not studying their parts, like stuff like that. It was pretty fun. It's pretty fun, I would say.
So was this band all original then, or did you do covers too?
No, we did this like 50-50, let's say.
Okay.
Yeah, we did covers. There's a band called Narnia from Sweden, which is basically Yngwie Malmsteen copy,
Yeah.
but with Narnia themes. And I got a CD from them, from one of my other guitar teachers, and say, "Oh, you should listen to this guy. It's like Malmsteen, but it is not Malmsteen." And it is like the same tone. It's like the same cliche licks. It's like everything is there, but it's just a different band.
Yeah.
So we played a few covers from them, and then we had our own songs, and we had a bunch of different influence. We had like prog metal from my side, and the bass player. The keyboard player was more into classical stuff. We had the drummer was more into thrash metal. So it actually worked pretty well. I mean,
That's
considering we were like 16-year-old, 17, 18-year-old kids
sure.
in our universe, that was a cool thing to do.
Of course.
So yeah, that was a nice era. Like I think I developed a bunch of maybe not so much guitar technique, but the songwriting aspect, a bunch of being in a band aspects. That was pretty good.
So what happened to the band?
No, the band dissolved in 2009. So I started. The thing is, I started musical education, like formal musical education, on 2008. As soon as I finished high school, and by '09, I was kind of fed up with a few of the aspects of the band, which is like showing up to rehearsal and people not like failing to play songs that we were playing like 3 years ago. Like,
Sure.
no, I'm done with that. So I
Sure.
think it was like, let's move on. And I focused 100% on studying music. And I studied classical guitar. Like I was doing 2 careers at a time, which is pretty crazy now that I think it. I was doing conservatory, like formal classical music, academic, and then I was doing popular music, like it was folklore, like music from a country, and then tango and jazz. So at that era, I think I kind of dropped the shred stuff. I was still playing electric guitar, but I discovered this whole aspect of the music. Like I was very close minded in terms of music by that point, and I only listened to bands that could throw a million notes in a song or weird time signatures, stuff like that. I was very into Dream Theater and progressive metal, Symphony X, that kind of stuff. That's what I used to listen. And then when I got into tango and folklore, it's like, damn, this is hard to play, but in a different way. Like there is so much you can do with the guitar. Like it was mind blowing. And also the classical guitar study just gave me some really good foundation in terms of technique, like the good posture, good angle, so how not to hurt your hands in the process. You can play for hours without getting tired and so on. So it was I don't play classical barely anymore, but I really got some solid technique out of that study.
Sure. So now, I mean, we're going to get back to some other things too, but with all of that study that you did and those experiences, right now, what kind of music do you find yourself practicing most? Hey, if you could, do me a huge favor. Like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And also do me a huge favor. Head over to GuitarZoom.com and check out our courses and our all-access membership.
I am all over the place at the moment. I will always be a metalhead. I love prog metal.
Sure.
It's just that I am not just listening to that, right?
Sure,
So
sure.
I'm not sure if you ever heard about synthwave, the music style. Well, I'm sort of listening to that a lot. I dig 80s synths. It's something about the vibes of that kind of music that it's really nice to listen to and to improvise on. It's like that they have really good music. And then a lot of new players. I'm trying to get into more fusion kind of music, and just to get out of prog metal a little bit, you know. And there's so many good players, like modern players that no one is aware of. They have like that social media kind of make them explode, but people like I don't know, Plini, Jack Gardiner, those new players, the new way of virtuosos, they are insane. They are taking the instrument to the next level. It's just fantastic to watch them. So I'm not so focused right now on like improving my skills and like discovering new music. I'm sort of adult life took over that as well a little bit. So
sure,
there's a lot of stuff going on. That's mainly the thing.
Sure. Yeah, it's interesting. You know, like for me, growing up in the 80s and listening to a lot of that 80s stuff, and now it's to the point where there's a lot of that stuff that I love. Like, again, Malmsteen, all those things, but I've burned out of listening to it. I mean, I just can't do it anymore. So I've found myself doing the same thing where I'll go back to earlier and listen to different styles of music that I wouldn't have listened to back when I was that age because I considered it uncool in my brain. And now I actually find it really enjoyable to listen to. So it's not just listening to music because of the guitar, although that happens too. But just listening to music just because I have a bigger scope in my mind now of what music is, and it's not just guitar centric necessarily.
Yeah, that's true. And funnily enough, I ended up, after all these shred years, I ended up playing a pop band, like my actual band. I play lead guitar in a band called Sauda, which is a vocal quartet. And sometimes we get to play like the whole band. We are 8, just a bunch of people. And all my guitar parts are like 2 notes here, there, maybe a solo, like very conservative solo, no sweep picking or anything. It's like a whole different aspect to music, but the band sounds absolutely amazing live. It's like the arrangement is on point. Right, we have a very good musical director, so it's also it's super professional. I put on my headsets. I had the indications of the director. Okay, here comes the breakdown. Okay, just quiet here. Watch out for the. It's like a guided meditation sort of a show. Right. But yeah, it is really enjoyable.
But that's an interesting thing, because again, just because you play rock or you play a lot doesn't make playing, and this isn't an argument about less is more or more is more. I never get into that argument, because you and I are both blessed that we had that time to be able to do that. So you've got that skill set if you need it, but you've learned all these other skill sets since then that you can utilize. I have a buddy that plays with Pharrell, if you know who Pharrell is. So when he's in the studio with Pharrell, he always talks about, or Justin Timberlake or whatever it might be, how these guys think of music, think of guitar the way you just said, where it's a very sparse element, but the parts that they come up with are very important rhythmically. And it's almost sometimes kind of hard to minimize your playing and to stay really tight when you do those things. So it's just the opposite, but it's still a skill set that you have to work on to stay tight in the groove versus playing all over the place 1,000 miles an hour.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the points, one of the biggest aspects of growing as a musician is learning that you are a part of a bigger thing, and not everything is about guitar.
Right.
So learning what your place is in the song and in the bigger scheme of things, I think it's probably the most important thing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Especially on bigger bands, the more musicians you get, the less you get to play.
Yes.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, I play with this. They're 15-piece with the singers, but they're a 12-piece horn band, and they're all professors around town here. So they play, a lot of Earth, Wind, and Fire in Chicago and things like that. So it's really fun when I play with them, because it's exactly what you're saying, where your parts oftentimes are minimal, but important to the bigger picture of the thing. But just the fact that you're making this music with all of these people and everything is very tight, and
you cannot step away like a single note, or you're gonna step over someone else's part. So you gotta be careful.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your teaching. So you've been learning how to play. You went to the conservatory. You've been learning how to play all these different styles of music. You were in that band until 2009. So what's the deal? Like, when did you decide to start teaching music, and why?
I think it was around 2012, if I recall correctly. I mean the degree that I was studying was for teaching, right? It was like the specialization was folklore music, guitar, but it was a teaching degree after all. So I had half of the classes were like psychology, like stuff like teaching resources, right? So I think it was 2012 when I got a job in my first school, and it was like another mind-blowing moment. It was an elementary school. I still work at that school, by the way. They gave me an opportunity to start as a teacher with not even half of my career done, and I will always value that. And it was very helpful in terms of transferring your knowledge to other person, and how can you explain to someone else how do you look at music, or how do you explain I don't know, a simple riff. Remember, I work with childs from 6 to 12, and I need to bring it down to the lowest common denominator, try to be fun, and how to be engaging with the kids. So that was like it was a very hard challenge. I suffered a lot the first year. It was really hard to keep up, but that really helped me. Not just for the schoolwork, but for other students. A lot of the skills I got in the school are transferable for one-on-one lessons or even workshops or whatever. So I think it made me more versatile in terms of working with other people. I think, at some point, it's good for any musician to get into teaching, because it helps you understand the guitar in a different way, not just for the performing aspect, but being able to show it to someone else, and that other person being able to play what you're doing, to understand you, like even complex topics. Like I have some students that they like to learn about harmony, and this how the hell am I gonna explain like voicing and stuff, like that's something that's really abstract. I mean, it's just an ongoing challenge, but it helped me that way, right? So I worked at I still work in that school, and by the same period of time I started teaching one-on-one lessons, and it was kind of hard to get people to get committed with guitar. I think that was the main frustration I had with teaching at some point. And it's like I taught guitar, and it says no one is taking it seriously. I don't know if it happened with you, but it's like no one sees the guitar the way I see it. How can I make that happen?
Yes,
so
correct.
So I made it so that my mission would be for people to enjoy the instrument. So everyone has their different goals, but I always say that to my students in classes. I try to you need to try and enjoy the ride. That's the only way you're gonna enjoy playing the instrument. Everyone says that I want to play that, I want to learn that skill, but you need to enjoy the process, because that process takes a lot of time, and until you reach the point, you cannot suffer 3 months until learning how to play an arpeggio, right? So you need to enjoy music.
Right. You know, it's interesting. I started teaching when I was 17, so this would be 1987. And the guitar was certainly more, for lack of a better way of saying it, more popular back then in a general sense. And then, moving into the 90s, with Nirvana and stuff, it just exploded. Like people were just learning all the time. And then once it got into the 2000s, certainly in the 2010s, which I stopped, teaching privately about 10 years ago, but you had so many students that didn't even really listen to guitar. Like the stuff they listened to were different styles of music that may or may not have guitar. So you had to work a little harder as a teacher to find that middle ground. Like you're saying, guitar for me has always been synonymous with psychology anyway, because it's not just about teaching guitar. It's about trying to connect to that student, like you just said, on a way that motivates them and makes them want to play, versus, well, my dad told me I have to take guitar lessons or piano lessons, so I chose guitar. Okay, well, what can we find? What kind of middle ground can we find that would be fun for you or motivating for you? Because if I'm just teaching you whatever, and you go home and you don't do it, you're going to come back next week and we didn't get anything done. So teaching can be exhausting. Like if you really care about it, teaching can be very exhausting, because you're putting so much into trying to make a connection. And I think that's the way teaching should be anyway. It doesn't matter if you're teaching math or guitar or anything like that, like trying to put yourself into it so this student gets something out of it and probably looks at you in a positive light as a result of it. Which is why, Manuel is here at GuitarZoom anyway, is because that's exactly the kind of instructors that I believe in. So you're teaching now. You're teaching private lessons. It's around 2012, you said. So have you been teaching since then? Like, how did things go once we got to COVID? Like, what happened with you then?
Well, that was pretty. Yeah, that was hard. So I worked at schools. I worked at academies, like local academies. I worked with private lessons, like face to face, not
Sure.
virtual.
Sure.
So yeah, COVID was a disaster for me, basically, because at that point I only had one school and a few students, and of all my students, no one wanted to go forward in remote lessons, and I didn't know what to do. I was like without a job, basically. So I ended up signing up to every single freelancer platform you could imagine. Fortunately enough, I had good levels of English in order to get through, because like
Sure.
if you only know, if it's not that you know one language. If you don't know English, you're basically screwed here.
Right.
So fortunately enough, I don't have trouble with that, and I signed to every single platform you can imagine for recording, for transcribing, for teaching, for everything. And at some point, I spent like a couple of months until I got the ball running, but I started getting a good influx of students in Fiverr. That was like the first step in the remote sessions that actually had some traction. And at some point, I had like 25, 26 students. It was crazy. I never had that amount
Wow.
of students. It was crazy. Yeah, but it was that point. It was like full pandemic when everyone was like bored at home, like not showing up to work.
Right.
So yeah, and the school work was very exhausting at that point. Even not going to the school, because everything was virtual. We did like musical like showcases with students. It was the amount of work that went into those showcases was insane. Like people from the school will drive to the students' houses. They will lend them instruments. They will watch it in alcohol. You'll get here's a guitar. You go get practice. It was insane. Like we did like it was a very big effort from both the teachers and the personnel at the school. It was
Right.
very, very nice. And we did some good stuff, all things considered, right?
Right.
But yeah, to not bore you too much, yes, like it was a turning point for me. After that, I never went back to face-to-face lessons. I do everything remote now, and that's pretty much what I'm doing
Sure.
right now. Full on remote lessons, and it's actually been working pretty nice.
Well, that's great. Yeah, it's interesting how everything changed, because these things, like whether you use Zoom or Google Meet or whatever it might be, I went, gosh, I don't even remember when it was, but it would have been somewhere around maybe 2010, 2012. I started exploring these online things. Before I started, this would have been right before I started even with GuitarZoom. Because I was like, man, wouldn't it be great if I could, instead of doing one-on-one lessons forever, if I could do like 50 lessons in an hour? You know what I mean? Like people all around the world could take a lesson and I could just do like 3 hours a day and then I'd be done for that day, as opposed to working 8 hours, teaching guitar lessons. And it kind of worked. I was working with a company out of New York called Lesson Face, which I still do things with them once in a while, but it kind of worked. And that's where the whole online thing started for me. But I just always struggled with the technology. Like it just wasn't fast enough, or the audio always sucked, where the guitar, you really couldn't hear it. And you and I have been talking about that since you've come on with GuitarZoom, like, trying to find the best way of being able to do this. So the student gets a great experience, but the teacher also is able to appropriately listen to the student and assess things.
Yeah. So this day is still like I can't believe it's 2024 and there's not a single video communication platform that actually focuses on musicians. Zoom is the closest thing we have, but it's still not quite there.
So I'm going to tell you this.
I would like to.
I think it's called Mooz, M-O-O-Z. If you get a chance, look that up when we're done today. So they claim, I think that's the website. They claim that that's what they are. The problem is that it requires a bit of setup. And of course, the one thing you want is the setup to be really easy for the student. But anybody out there, take a look at Mooz. And there's a couple of different Moozes, I think. So you got to look for the one that is for, lessons or online or whatever. But because I maybe that isn't, I don't remember which one it is, but it's something like that. And so hopefully someday we'll get something like that. That would be a cool, interactive kind of thing for all of us. So tell me, because I don't want to take way too much more of your time. So tell me, if I had to, completely unscripted here, give me 3 of your favorite guitar players of all time.
John Petrucci.
Okay.
They're gonna be shredders. I cannot.
Sure.
I can't deal with that. Yeah, John Petrucci, Joseph Triani, and I would say either Clapton or Vaughan.
Okay.
I'm really into blues as well. It's just I don't play too much, but
sure,
like 70% of my students want to study blues.
Sure.
So I ended up studying a lot, and I ended up liking blues players.
Okay.
But yeah, I cannot put 3. It's impossible. But yeah, if I had to pick right now, maybe if you ask me 5 minutes from now, I'm gonna give you another 3 players.
And that's okay. That's the thing. So you can change your mind in 5 minutes, no doubt about it. All right. So your favorite album, which might already be what you already mentioned, but when you were a kid, your favorite album.
Oh God, why are these questions? So, Deep Purple live in Japan.
Ooh,
I think I'd listened to that recording a million times.
Wow, that's a good one.
Zeppelin 4, Dark Side of the Moon, The Wall, Animals, anything Pink Floyd.
Yeah, those are all good.
Yeah. And you know what? You just remind me. We have a workshop. It was crazy. It was back in my high school. We could choose a workshop to do like every trimester. And our geography player, our geography teacher, had a workshop about progressive rock.
Oh wow!
So it was a long 3 years. And you will study like from the 70s to the 2000s, and we just sit down and listen to music.
Oh my gosh!
He would bring records. It was like we had so many unknown bands, and from that era I was listening to Focus,
sure,
Camel, I don't know, so many bands.
Sure,
it's insane. Anything progressive from the 70s, prog rock, like Genesis, Yes.
Oh yeah,
that kind of stuff.
Always loved them. Always loved like Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Kansas.
Oh yeah.
There's just a ton of them. Yeah, good stuff. Cool. Well, thanks for your time, man. I'm gonna let you get back to your life, but I appreciate you taking time out to hang out.
Thanks, Steve, for the invitation. I'm super glad to be here.
Yeah.
All right.
And so everybody remember, please, if you're looking for private instruction, Manuel is available here at GuitarZoom, and he's definitely worth checking out. So we'll talk to you soon, okay, buddy?
All right. Thanks, Steve.
See ya.
See you around.
If you like our podcast and want to hear more, remember to press the subscribe button on the app that you listen to. By doing this, you help us a lot, and you'll be the first to know when we have new episodes ready for you to listen to. Is this podcast fun and useful? Then please give it a thumbs up and write about how much you like it. Is this podcast not what you thought it would be? Please let us know. This helps us to make our podcast better and helps more people who love guitar find it as well. So don't forget to subscribe, like, and tell us what you think.